Hello and welcome to Exploring Game Pass. Each episode we'll take a look at some of the best and most unique titles available, as well as the games coming to and leaving the service. Get the most out of your subscription with Exploring Game Pass, brought to you by screenhype.co.uk. New episodes released on the 7th and 21st of every month. Now, on with the show. So, in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the indie adventure game Bugsnax, which I'm super excited to share with you all. I actually remember seeing the trailer for it first during the PS5 reveal, and I thought it looked like just the cutest and therefore the best game in the entire show. And I actually did first play it when it came on to PlayStation. I'm such a traitor to Xbox, but that was back when I was streaming, so that was back in, I want to say 2020? Yeah, I think it was like November 2020 that I played Bugsnax, so it's pretty much right after it came out. And I was amazed by how genuinely good it was. Like, I was excited for it because of how it looked, because it looked cute, but it actually played really, really well, and I wasn't prepared for how good it is. And it also has a super catchy theme tune that was released as part of the trailer launch. And I think that's part of what attracted me to it in the first place, because that theme tune is just kinda bug and kinda snack. Oh, it's brilliant. If you haven't heard the Bugsnax theme tune, seriously, after this podcast, go to YouTube, listen to it. It's fantastic. And it's also got really clever lyrics that sort of change the meaning a bit once you know the story of the game. It's really, really clever. So listen to it before the game and then listen to it after as well, and you'll see what I mean. And the art style is so cute, so colourful, so quirky. It immediately catches your attention. Like, Bugsnax is a fully rounded experience of just, you know, visuals, it's got the sound, it's got the gameplay, it's got the story. It's absolutely fantastic in all of those aspects. So there are several different biomes in the world of Bugsnax, and I love how all of them are so completely different to each other. Like, they're varied not only in the aesthetic, but in how the Bugsnax themselves are adapted to their environment. Like, each Bugsnax has its own unique design, and it's very easy to tell which one comes from which area because of how it looks and because of how it's designed to really fit in with the environment. So some areas are like, there's one that's kind of like a beach, there's one that's a mountain, you know, there's all the sort of different areas, and you can tell pretty much immediately which one's from where because of the designs. Like, they look like the areas they come from, and it's such a fantastic way of rounding out the game and creating a more immersive experience. It just makes the whole game feel more enjoyable, less repetitive, and honestly, it's just absolutely fantastic level design. Of all of the areas, I think my favourite is Sugar Pine Woods because I've got a sweet tooth and I think those snacks look just the yummiest. There's like a donut, there's a cinnamon snail, there's these flying ones, they're called charmallows, and they're basically like flying s'mores. And they're brilliant. And honestly, the snack design, all the snack designs are fantastic, but the ones in Sugar Pine Woods are just the best, except my favourite snack in the whole game comes from Frosted Peak, and it is Instabug. And it's honestly so beautiful. It's like this sparkling cupcake ant type thing. Oh, it's beautiful, truly beautiful. And some people complain that it's hard to catch, but I've actually found it pretty easy because basically it's got a clever mechanic that means it only comes out when you've got your camera open. So what I do, I'll set up my trap right next to the bush that I know it lives in because you can sort of see the bush shaking. Then I'll get my sort of trap ready to press the button and immediately launch the trap. I'll open my camera. As soon as the bug's out, quickly close the camera, close the trap, boom, done. So I find it easy to just press the capture button when I put the camera away, so I'm not sure why other people are struggling, but if you play, that's the trick to do it. Put the trap immediately outside the bush in the direction that you're going to point your camera, click the shutter, close it off, you're done. So as well as having the Bugsnax, there's also the NPCs, which are called Grumpuses, and they're a bit like, I guess, kind of bipedal dogs. So they don't look completely like dogs, but they've got like the dog kind of shaped face and they've got these horns. Anyway, they're called Grumpuses, and I think the range of personalities in them is just amazing. They're all so unique, and you just grow to love or hate them over the course of the game because of how their story develops, how their personality develops, how you get to sort of understand why they are the way they are. And my favourite is Gramble, because he's essentially like a vegan of the Bugsnax world, and he refuses to eat them, and he's got this like barn where he saves them, and he loves to collect them, and he thinks they're all so cute. Meanwhile, literally all the other Grumpuses are just chowing down on these Bugsnax, and Gramble's there trying to look after them, and I just think it's a really sort of cute juxtaposition. So I like Gramble. He's got a good heart. So when the Grumpuses eat the Bugsnax, which you can feed them when you catch them essentially, but their body parts will transform to resemble the snack that they've just turned into. And it's such a great method of customizing your residents. Like, you can make them all look so completely different. Because I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I think there's like 80 or so different Bugsnax you can use. And each one can change the look of a particular body part. And there's like all the different body parts on the Grumpuses. You know, they've got the hands, you've got the arms, you've got the face, you've got the body, you've got the horns. Like, there's so many different things that you can change on the Grumpuses, and I don't know how many combinations there must be, but it must be at least 100,000. In fact, probably more. I reckon it's in the millions, to be honest. And it's just so absolutely brilliant. It's such clever design, and it means you can make your game look so totally unique and nothing like anyone else's. And, you know, you can know exactly which residents. I mean, obviously they've all got their own separate looks anyway, but you can design residents to look however you like. You can make one that's all one bug or one that's a mix of other bugs, and it's entirely up to you. And I just think that's a really clever, enjoyable method of customizing your game. And I love game customizations. It's one of my favorite things. I'll never pay for skin options, but I do love when the game either gives it to you for free, or my favorite is when they give it to you as a progression reward, because it's kind of an incentive to do well. So it's not really like that in Bugsnax, because it's not really so much a progression award. It's more about what you catch, but it does mean you've got an incentive to catch all the different types of Bugsnax and multiple of them, so you can feed them to different Bugsnax. So it definitely does mean you can keep going for longer and catch more Bugsnax than you may otherwise have done so. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Granbull's kind of like the vegan equivalent of a Grumpus, and so when you try to feed him a Bugsnax, he'll be like, no thank you, I'm not going to eat them. So, but there is an achievement that you need to get for feeding him Bugsnax. So you need to wait until he's sleepwalking, because Granbull sleepwalks around Snaxburg, which is like the town they all live in, and then you can feed him while he's asleep. And I found it so funny in like a dark, evil way. So when I did it, I then did it again and fed him an extra Bugsnax, and I just kept on going. But I was being very careful not to transform his head, because he has this adorable little Strabby hat. Like, Strabby's one of the Bugsnax. It's his favourite Bugsnax. And he's got this hat that looks like Strabby. So I was very careful not to transform his head, because I didn't want him to lose his hat. But I did decide to transform his horn. And then I watched in horror as his horn transformed, and then he sleepwalked away, his hat falling to the ground. Because apparently when I did the horn, it also took the space of where the hat was going to be. And then he lost his signature hat, and I felt like such a monster. And then I felt an extra wave of guilt, because later on in the game I did a request for Granbull, and as a reward he gave me a replica of his Strabby hat, and he was telling me how much it meant to him, and he wanted me to share the joy of having it. And I felt so guilty because I made him lose his hat because I wanted to turn his horn. And I just turned it into like, I used one of the Bugsnax, it's called Sody. And I literally it was like, you know, there's like little metal ringy things that you pull them open to open your can. Ring pull, that's the one. Yes, he had a ring pull for a horn instead of his beautiful Strabby hat. Like, it wasn't even something exciting. It was just a metal ring pull, and I felt awful. So Bugsnax is an adventure game where you explore Snaktooth Island, uncovering secrets and catching Bugsnax. So the premise is that you're a journalist and you're writing a story about the intrepid explorer Lisbeth Megafig and her band of other Grumpuses who have gone to Snaktooth Island to sort of look into its secrets. But when you arrive, your ship crashes. It's because like this Bugsnax flies right at you. And when you land, you discover that Lisbeth has gone missing and the other Grumpuses are in disarray. It's your job to help the mayor, Filbo, get them back together again. And in the meantime, you also have to catch Bugsnax to provide us food, because they're terrible at catching Bugsnax themselves and they've been living off of sauce. Also, side note, I can't stand Filbo. Everyone loves him. All the fans are always talking about how great he is, and he annoys me, because it's like, why is he out here getting me to do everything? You're the mayor. You do it. If you can't do it, you know, resign, get someone else to be mayor. Wambus would be a great mayor. He's got a strong leadership personality. But Filbo, he's sweet, don't get me wrong. I like Filbo as a person, but you're the mayor, dude. Stop getting me to do everything. You know, take some responsibility. He acknowledges he's bad at the job and is always whining about it. And yet here I am, you know, he's outsourcing it all to me, a complete stranger. I didn't even sign up for this expedition. He shouldn't have gone if he wasn't prepared to be a good mayor. Feel bad for the guy, but I don't like him. He should be doing a better job. And I know this is going to gain me some hate from the Bugsnax fans, but I don't care, okay, guys? Filbo needs to get his act together, and he needs to stop making me do everything. Anyway, back to the main point. So catching Bugsnax is a lot of fun because they all require different approaches. So you have a range of sort of traps and equipment available to you, and you unlock more as the game progresses. So as you go to different areas and meet the different Grumpuses, because they're not all originally in the main town of Snaxburg, they're sort of spread out through the different biomes, and you have to go there to do requests for them to get them to come to back to Snaxburg, which again should be Filbo's job. He's the one who actually knows them, but I digress. So anyway, you get all these different traps, and then you have to figure out how the best way to catch each Bugsnax will be. And for several of them, there's sort of different combinations you can use that will work. And it's really interesting finding the best and most useful combinations for each Bugsnax. And there's some that you might not have even thought of because they involve very clever manipulation of other Bugsnax to help you out. And it's just really clever when you get them all in together in the wild and you have to figure out what you're doing. And one of the pieces of equipment available to you is the Sauce Slinger, and you can collect sauces for it by visiting the different biomes. So basically the different biomes will have different sauces available. So some will have ketchup, some will have ranch, some will have chocolate, some will have cheese. What's the other sauce? There's hot sauce. Is that it? Is that 5? I'm possibly forgetting one, but I think it's ketchup, chocolate, ranch, peanut butter. Ketchup, chocolate, ranch, peanut butter, cheese, and hot sauce. Those are your 6 sauces. And some Bugsnax will love particular sauces and others will hate them. And you can basically use that to get them angry, so they try and extinguish the sauce, or get them to love and try and follow and come right to drink the sauce. So you basically use it to coerce them to come to different positions, which can make them easier to catch. I was so thrilled when this game was added to Game Pass back in April 2022 because I had wanted to replay the game for a long while, but I don't really like my PS4 as much as my Xbox. I'll play PlayStation if there's an exclusive game that's not available on a different console, but other than that, I don't really use it because I just much prefer the user interface and the general, controller style of the Xbox. I'm very much an Xbox girl, plus I love Gamerscore. Like, that is pretty much the main reason I get games on my Xbox, aside from just liking the style of Xbox. I love being able to get achievements and collect Gamerscore. It's like a thrill for me, whereas PlayStation just offers you trophies. That's not as fun. Give me my Gamerscore. But anyway, when it did come to Xbox, I was really happy, and not only was it available on Game Pass, but there was also DLC that added a bunch of things. So I'm going to talk about some of my favourite additions. So the first one was the ability to customise your hut. So in the original game, you didn't have a hut, but now not only did you have one, but you could customise it, and you did this by completing requests that the Grumpuses sent you in the mail. So there was like a mailbox outside your hut, and you could have 5 requests open at any point. And when you completed it, you'd unlock new customization options like decorations, furniture, wallpaper, and it added so much replayability to the game because you had all these different requests that you could do. I think it's about 100 different ones that came up. I can't remember exactly, but there were a lot. And you could go around and complete them to get more playtime out of the game, and it was a lot of fun. It felt exciting, like a challenge, because the main game is relatively easy, whereas these requests were sometimes a bit harder and more challenging, and I really loved that about it. And then another new addition that came with the DLC is that some of the wild Bugsnax wear hats. And it's brilliant. You can basically find them in the wild, and if you catch one that is wearing a hat, the hat is then added to your collection, and you can put any of the Bugsnax in Gramble's barn in that hat. You can have all your hats, and you can sort of customize them to put a Bugsnax hat on a Bugsnax in Gramble's barn and just see it in Snaxburg. And I'm probably disproportionately excited about it for what it is, but there's something so cute about these tiny little hats on these Bugsnax. They look fantastic. And outside Gramble's barn, there's a poster that shows you the picture of the biome where the hat-wearing Bugsnax is, because it changes throughout the course of the day because there's only one at a time. So you go to that biome, you look around, see which Bugsnax are wearing a hat, and you spot the offender, and then it's time to catch it and get that hat into your collection. And there's such a range of hats. I think my favourite one has to be the little Strabby hat that looks like Gramble's, but there's loads of other excellent ones. There's like a crown, there's a jester hat, there's a cap based on the Grumpus Chandlo, who's my second favourite after Gramble. I love Chandlo. He's like such a bro. He's such a himbo, and I adore him. And then another fantastic quality of life update was the ability to fast travel, because in the original version of the game, you'd have to walk through each biome to get to the next one. And if you were on one that's on the other side of the map, it could be pretty annoying to have to go all the way through the others. Whereas now you can just open up your map in your guidebook and just, boom, you travel. Just go click on the area you want to be, it'll do the loading screen, and then you're there. So that was definitely a huge improvement. However, the main part of the DLC, and the thing for which it is named, is the Isle of Bugsnax. Oh, I remember seeing the trailer for this and being so pumped. So they're like Bugsnax, but bigger. And this was a whole new area called Broken Tooth Island, and it is by far the largest biome in the game. Like, it is huge, which makes sense because on it, all of the Bugsnax are oversized, and it adds an entirely new element to the story where you explore the origin of Bugsnax, and you try to get to the bottom of why these ones are so much larger than the ones on Snacktooth Island. And it's actually a considerable length to complete the story. I think I looked on how long to beat, and it said 3 hours for the DLC, which sounds about right for how much I was playing it, because there's 4 Grumpuses go over there with you, and you have to complete sort of quest lines for all of them, and it's really a long, detailed story. It's fantastic. It also introduces some really cool new snack designs, so I personally really like Millie Mochi, even though I know a lot of players didn't like it, because it is annoying because how it freezes you, but it's also relatively easy to capture, as there's plenty of access to fire on the island. So basically you can just jump in an open flame and run over to him and he'll melt. Like, you'll be on fire for a bit, but he'll melt, and then you can make him smaller using the special powder that the Broken Tooth Island gives you, and then you can just catch it, and it's just so cute. It's like a caterpillar made out of mochi pieces, and I love it. It's such a simple design and yet so effective. However, my least favourite by far is Spider. Now, I hate spiders anyway, but I wasn't particularly scared of this one. Like, it's a spaghetti spider with a meatball for its abdomen. It's still relatively scary because it's a spider, but it wasn't the fear that bothered me. What bothered me was how difficult it is to catch. Like, it had no right being as hard to catch as it was. It took me longer to catch that than pretty much all of the other ones on the entire island, except for that one. Like, it was so annoying. Every time I'd get so close, and then I'd get screwed over, like, right at the last minute. Like, it shouldn't have been as hard to catch as it is, and it's hard to put my finger on why it was. I think because of where it was in relation to the other items that you needed, it was just such a hassle. But I hated Spider so much, and it took me, I reckon, about half an hour to catch it. It was proper long. It was shameful how long it took, but I got it in the end, and I completed my island, so I was happy. Going back to the main game, the twist at the end is phenomenal. I did not see it coming at all, and it's one of the most dark and unexpected turns I've ever encountered in a game. So my number one will always be that moment in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Like, I won't give spoilers if you haven't played it, although it's been out for like a decade, so you probably should have played it by now, or at least heard of it. But anyway, it is brutal, and it gave me trust issues for any future Call of Duty game I played. But Bugsnax is it's definitely up there in my top 5. It just paints everything you've experienced so far in a new light, and it's so beautifully interwoven into the main storyline, and you just wouldn't expect it from a game that looks as cute and innocent as this. It's so dark. It's fantastic though, and the way it's revealed as well right at the end is just really clever. It's truly a masterpiece in how to bring an element of intrigue and spookiness into your story, and I'm honestly, if you haven't played Bugsnax yet, you really need to, just for the story. Like, even the gameplay is amazing too, but the story, it's so much better than you'd think. You know, you'd watch the trailer and you just think, oh, it's a cute game where you catch fun little designed Bugsnax, but it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper, so much more brilliant. And honestly, it's a game I recommend to everyone because it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm so glad it's on Game Pass now, because I was recommending it even before it was on Game Pass, which is huge for me because I pretty much exclusively play Game Pass games most of the time. So the fact that I was recommending this when it's not even on Game Pass shows you how much I do genuinely love it. I also won't give any spoilers, but it's incredibly beneficial to do the side quests for each Grumpus. So I won't say why, but all I'll say is it significantly improves your chances of getting the best ending for this game. There are multiple possible endings, and doing the side quests will ensure you can win, as in get the best ending. So it is still possible to win without doing it, it's just much more difficult. So I would highly recommend, as well as doing the main storylines that the Grumpuses give you, they'll also give you side quests. Keep doing them until they don't give you any more, and only then trigger the ending, because the game will actually ask you before going into the end game, because there's like a party in the Snacksburg, and then Philbo will give you like a main challenge, and the game will say, are you sure you want to do this? You know, there's no going back kind of thing. However, there is going back, because once you have completed the end game, the game will sort of reset you to just before you played it, so you can try and get the different endings if you want to. So yeah, don't worry, you can go back into the game. You won't have to start new to get all the excess things that the game gives you, like the customization options and everything. But when you're playing for the first time, you'll want to you'll want to do it and make sure you're ready. And like I said, try and get all the quests done, because that is what makes the ending so much easier to get. I like how the end credit scene paves an opportunity for a Bugsnax 2, and I would really love to see a sequel to this game, but I guess we'll have to see what Young Horses have in store. But honestly, the DLC was such a nice present from them, because it was a free update and it brought so much extra into the game. But I would really love to see a completely new sequel, new characters, new storylines would be absolutely fantastic to me, set in this same world. But even by itself, Bugsnax is such a special, beautiful experience. I'm so glad I had the chance to play, and really, it's about 7.5 hours, I believe, in the how long to beat. So it's really not that long. Add about 3 for the DLC. And you're getting such an amazing, wonderful experience that you can choose to be a completionist or not. Like, I went and got everything because the achievements are actually pretty easy to get. So you get most of them playing through the main game, and then you can get a few extra ones by sort of going back and doing more after. But it shouldn't take you more than 10 or 11 hours to fully complete the game, 1,000 gamer score. So although it's not necessarily an easy 1,000 gamer score, it's not difficult by any means, and it's certainly one that's relatively easy to 100%. I've 100%ed quite a few games now. So my first was Spyro the Reignited Trilogy back in 2018, and that was the very first time I'd got 1,000 gamer score. I've got quite a few since then, because Xbox have done events where you get like 10,000 Microsoft reward points for getting 10,000 gamer score. I really hope they do a new one of those soon. Those are fantastic. But yeah, so I've got a few games 100%, but Bugsnax was definitely one of my favourite to 100%, because a lot of the 100%s involve kind of grindy actions, and I don't like that. I like when you get them just for one quick action that you can go back and do is my preference. Like, obviously I like getting the ones as part of the story, but the extra ones, I don't like them to be too finicky. And with Bugsnax, they're really not. Like, you can get them 10-15 minutes each max, really. So yeah, I would say definitely if you like getting achievements, Bugsnax is also a good one for you. But if you're just looking for a fun, cute, interesting story, fun gameplay, easily accessible, like, it's not too much of a skill barrier at all for this one. I'd say pretty much anyone can learn to be good at it. So overall, Bugsnax is absolutely worth a play. But there could be more games worth playing, so it's time to take a look at those that are coming soon in the second half of October. So these are all coming on various dates in the next couple of weeks, or they came out yesterday. And as always, the focus is on Xbox console games, not PC. But let's dive straight into it. So first, this came out yesterday on October 20th, and this is the Amnesia Collection and Amnesia Rebirth. They are technically two different games, but I'm putting them together since they're the same franchise. I impressed myself by watching the trailer for Rebirth all the way through, as usually I chicken out when it comes to watching horror trailers, but thankfully it seems it saved most of the scary stuff for the game itself, and the trailer sets it up without really showing it, so I was okay with that one. Either way, I saw enough to know that I would be too scared to actually play this game. The Amnesia Collection trailer looked significantly scarier, but the graphics were too outdated to really get to me. So The Dark Descent, which is one of the titles included in it, was first made in 2010, hence not being as visually striking as Rebirth, because that was published in 2020. The games do look brilliant though, and it seems as though the developers put a lot of work into creating a storied environment full of assets for the player to interact with. So if you're looking for a horror franchise to play on October 31st, these are perfect for you. Then we have Phantom Abyss, which also came out yesterday on October 20th, and I hadn't heard of this one prior to launch, but it actually looks awesome, and I'm really excited to give it a try. So the game places you in procedurally generated temples, and it's your job to try and complete them without being destroyed by the many obstacles. But you know how in racing games you can see the ghost of your previous attempt to try and beat it? Well, imagine that, but tenfold or more, because in Phantom Abyss, you see the player ghosts of all those who attempted the same temple as you, but died. And I guess it helps you to like avoid their mistakes, but it's all happening in real time, so you'll need super quick like reflexes and reactions. And I honestly watched the trailer with my hand over my mouth when I saw what the ghosts were, because it's such an amazing concept. It's so clever that you are seeing real players, real attempts that they failed, and you see exactly their moves, and during, like, whilst you're watching, you yourself are trying to beat the temple. And I just think that's so clever. It's such an amazing concept. The gameplay at first glance reminds me a bit of Prince of Persia, and that was one of my favourite titles back in the day, so I'm super pumped for this one, especially because you've got like this whip that you can shoot out and grip onto higher obstacles, just like, because I played Prince of Persia on the Wii. It wasn't Sands of Time, I forgot what it was called. I played one of the Prince of Persia games on the Wii, and it had like the nunchucks, and you could sort of like move your arm to throw out the whip, and that is exactly what I thought of when I saw that part in the trailer for Phantom Abyss. So yeah, I'm definitely going to give this one a try, and I would recommend at least checking out the trailer for it because it's brilliant. Then the last of those released yesterday was Soma, so again on October 20th. And I tried to watch this trailer, I really did, but around half a minute in, a scary face appeared on the screen and I noped out of there because I don't want to give myself nightmares. This describes itself as existential speculative horror, and that is everything I hate in a game, and I admire people who can play titles like this without breaking down in fear and crying like a maniac. Honestly, this kind of horror just terrifies me. It's why I couldn't even bear to watch the trailer. So this survival horror game has a high Metacritic rating as well as a 10 out of 10 user score on Steam. So I think you can safely assume that it'll be a fun experience if you're a fan of the genre. So yeah, if you're looking for a new horror game, then Soma should be ideal for you to get your chills and thrills. So today, October 21st, we have Persona 5 Royal. Yes, yes, yes! I am so pumped for this one. Like, I couldn't believe it when I saw that the Persona games were coming to Game Pass, and we finally get the first in a long line of installments from this franchise. So it's beginning with this, Persona 5 Royal. I've never actually played a Persona game, but I've always wanted to. I do have a Switch, but I don't really tend to purchase games for it, as these days I barely play anything that isn't Xbox, as I don't like to spend money on games when I can just play hundreds of titles for free on Game Pass. But I am super excited to dip my toes into the world of Persona. I've seen other people play this on Twitch, and it looks like so much fun, and like it's totally up my alley. And not only does the gameplay look epic, but the soundtrack is awesome. It's full of action and excitement. It just seems so brilliant. The game has a fun art style with bold colours and comic-like writing and effects. It's just your standard JRPG, but at the highest level of quality. And I've heard that the turn-based combat offers like a wealth of options to suit your playstyle. So there are sort of multiple different routes you can take with your combat to find what suits you. And turn-based combat is always my preference in games like this. Like, I don't really like real-time combat, the exception being Hades. But I'm really excited to play Persona 5. I'm genuinely really hyped. And it has a lot of other people hyped too. So if I were you, I would not want to miss out on this one. So you should get Persona 5 Royal today, right now. As soon as the podcast's over, hop onto your Xbox, get downloading it and jump straight in. So on October 27th, we are getting Gunfire Reborn, and the trailer for this wasn't quite what I expected based on the title, because I thought it was going to be a bullet hell type of game, but it does seem like it's a bit more complex than that. It's got sort of several different elements of gameplay involved. It's a roguelike FPS RPG adventure game, so it certainly doesn't commit to just one genre. The art looks quite fun and quirky. It's got a curious visual disconnect between the characters and the levels, and that does appear to be intentional on the part of the developers. And according to players, like, I haven't played this myself. Oh, obviously I haven't played it myself. It's not on Game Pass until 27th. But according to people who have played it, so I believe that's on Steam, I would imagine, they said it has really sort of satisfying gameplay. So even though I don't have any intentions to play it myself, it could be worth checking out the trailer if you like shooting and hitting things. Like, it's not my kind of genre, but if you're into FPS RPG hack and slash type games, you may as well watch the trailer, see what you think, because you might find a new game ready for you on October 27th. And then also on October 27th, there is Signalis. And this is yet another survival horror game. So Xbox are really going all out to ensure players are set for Halloween. There are just, I think it's 4 on the coming soon. About half of them are horror games. So it's perfect for people who enjoy it, not for me. This one appeals to me the least. Not because it looks scary, but because the graphics are awful. Call me a snob, but I want the games I play to look like they were made this decade. That doesn't have to be super realistic details or anything. You know, I don't mind pixel art or other minimalist styles, but Signalis uses that very quintessentially late 90s art style that was popular in like fighting and sci-fi games where the assets are all grainy and blurred around the edges. I hated it then, and I despise it now. And the thing that annoys me is that it was clearly a deliberate choice by the developer, and whilst I appreciate their vision, it could not be further away from my taste in games. But if you're looking to get your horror fix and you don't mind bad graphics, then I guess this is another to add to your list. And now I am really, really sad because this next one is a PC only and it's Frog Detective, which is also coming out on October 27th. And I am gutted that it's PC only because I love cute, cozy games. And even though I play exclusively on console, I watched the trailer anyway just to taunt myself and it looks adorable. I envy PC players for getting to play it. So when I finally save up for a gaming PC, I am going to make this the first PC Game Pass title that I download. Honestly, it looks so much fun. But like I said, this podcast focuses on the Xbox games, so I won't delve into it too much. However, what I will delve into are the games that are sadly leaving us at the end of October. So these will all be gone by November, and I've included how long they take to beat based on howlongtobeat.com. However, take this with a pinch of salt, because last fortnight I wanted to play Echo Generation, which was leaving, and according to How Long to Beat, it was like 5.5 hours. Not too bad. So I'd played about 3 hours, but thanks to a busy week, I hadn't had much time to play it until literally the day it was leaving. So I opened it up about 10 PM after I'd finished my work, and I started playing. Now, I'd already put 3 hours into this, so I thought, oh, that's fine, only about 2.5 hours left, I'll be done in no time. Now, the thing with Game Pass is that once it hits midnight, the game is off, but if you have got the game open, you can continue playing it. So I knew I had to finish it in that session or I would not get the chance to finish. So it hits midnight, and I'm still not at the end, but I think it's fine, I must be really close. I keep on playing. It keeps on going, and I'm thinking, it has been over 5 hours now, what is going on? And I ended up coming off at like 6 AM because instead of taking 5 hours, it took like 9.5 or 10 hours. And I guess the 5 hours must be based on if you're following a walkthrough or something. And I was so tired by the end of it. Like, it was a great game and I was really enjoying it. But I was just sat there like, please end, I just want this to be over now. And oh, that destroyed me. I was just playing so much later than I wanted to. So yeah, like I said, I'll include the How Long to Beat times so you can sort of decide how you want to split your time between these games that are leaving soon, but bear in mind it could take longer, so plan your time accordingly because you do not want another Echo Generation debacle like I had. So first off we have Backbone, and I really like the gloomy aesthetic for this one, although the pixelated look kind of detracts from me somewhat. I feel like pixel art can work well for some games such as Stardew Valley, but for me it's usually something I don't like too much. The game has an okay rating of 72 on Metacritic, which isn't great, but it's not terrible either. So this game is a post-noir narrative adventure, so that definitely appeals to me, as I like games with a lot of talking and reading, but with other elements of gameplay too, because I tend not to have the patience for visual novels, and this seems like a great balance of the two. And supposedly there's an emotional aspect as well, and that does intrigue me enough to want to play it. So apparently it takes about 4.5 hours to beat, or 6.5 if you're a completionist, and I think I'll probably try this one if I get time, because it does feel promising for my tastes, and I'm not overly fussed on some of the other titles here. The next one being Second Extinction, and this is interesting to see coming off, and I think it's a very clever move on the developer's part. So the version on Game Pass has been the game preview, with the full game being released on the 20th of October, so this was not even 2 weeks before it comes off of the service. That means that players will have time to get used to the early build, but only a short time to play the full version. So that means they have time to decide if they like the game, and then they commit to buying the full game because it's not going to be on Game Pass for much longer. So I think that's a very clever marketing move. It's a co-op FPS where you shoot up dinosaurs on some crazy terrains, and I'm sure it's fun for those of you who like killing monsters with your friends. And the main game takes 4.5 hours, but a completionist run takes 20 hours. However, you can continue playing long after that, as there's no limit to how many matches you can play. It doesn't have couch co-op, but it has online multiplayer. We're also losing Sniper Elite 4, and this third-person tactical shooter is a stealth game that puts you in the role of an elite sniper, hence the title Sniper Elite. I've never actually played this franchise, although I used to love Stickman Sniper when I was a teenager, back when those Flash games were pretty much all I had access to. And I also remember playing Call of Duty on the PS3, and I loved using the sniper, even though I wasn't particularly good at it. And people would always get salty about me camping, but I didn't care. I'd just claymore the entrance to the building I was in, crouch by the window and get to work. I definitely do have a soft spot for snipers, but I lack the skill. I'm not good at them, unfortunately. The trailer for Sniper Elite 4 looks epic, but I probably won't be playing it simply because Sniper Elite 5 is also on Game Pass, and I'm generally of the opinion that newer is better. But for those of you who are a fan of shooter games, it might be worth experiencing it before it leaves. Be warned though, it is a bit of a time sink, because the main story is 10.5 hours, and a completionist run takes a staggering 37 hours. We also have Project Wingman, and to me this looks like Star Wars Battlefront, but with planes instead of spaceships. You fly around shooting down other planes while trying not to get shot, and then you drive around in tanks on the ground, shooting others while trying not to get shot. Simple premise, plenty of exciting action sequences. The players seem to love it, and it has a 9 out of 10 rating on Steam. But with a game like this, I feel the fun is in the multiplayer mode, and I'm just not sure how great that's going to feel when there's only a few days left to play it, because I don't know about you, but when I get into a new multiplayer game, I like to play it obsessively for a few weeks and then move on to something else. So if I'm only getting to play it for a couple of weeks, for me, I'd be wanting more, that I wouldn't want to get into something that I know is leaving. And the main story takes 10.5 hours, with a completionist run taking 33.5 hours. But like I said, there's a multiplayer mode too, so you're not stuck to just the main story. We're also losing Bassmaster Fishing 2022, and for someone who doesn't eat fish in real life, I sure love fishing minigames when I'm playing other titles. However, looking at the trailer, this one looks far too realistic for me, and not because I'm bothered about it from an ethical standpoint, because they're not real fish, so that doesn't bother me, but because it just looks boring, and there seems to be a lot of standing around doing next to nothing, and I like my gameplay to be active. But to be honest, I'm not really a fan of realistic simulators anyway, with the exception being Power Wash Simulator, which to my surprise, I loved. Bassmaster Fishing only got a 6 out of 10 rating on Steam, so clearly the players weren't enamored with it either, but I'm sure there will be those who adore it. It does have a multiplayer mode as well, so you can compete with other players to see who the best is. And if you're really into fishing, then I guess check this out, because it does seem very similar to real life fishing. But if you're just looking for a casual game to play, I reckon there's probably better options. It doesn't look particularly interesting or fun. However, a game that does look particularly interesting and fun is The Forgotten City, and I am gutted that this one is coming off, because I was actually planning to do an episode on it for this podcast. It was initially scheduled to be next week, so I had to do some last minute thinking about what to pick for next episode, and I will reveal my choice shortly at the end of this episode. I haven't played The Forgotten City myself, but I saw a friend play it, and I just thought it looked epic, and I've been meaning to get onto it since it was released in July 2021. However, thankfully that friend has the disc, so I can just borrow from them, but I'm still disappointed I don't get to share my thoughts with all of you, because it looks just fantastic, and I think there'll be so much to say about it. Interestingly, The Forgotten City was first released in 2015 as a Skyrim mod, and then it was adapted into its own game. So it's a 3D adventure game, and it's superb in execution. The story relies on a time loop, and it's really gripping. You have to modify your actions depending on what you learned in the previous loop, and there's a total of 4 endings that you can get. The main story takes 5.5 hours, although technically you can get one of the endings in a matter of minutes, and I'd say it's well worth it. However, it's worth noting that 5 hours is kind of based on optimal gameplay, so it could take you a lot longer if you're not really sure what you're doing. A completionist run does take a bit longer at 10 hours, but I will say now, this should be top of your list of games to play that are leaving soon, because The Forgotten City is one you really don't want to miss, and it shouldn't be forgotten. Then we have Non-Guns Doppelganger Edition. Now, I know that games like this do have a dedicated fan base, but I could not be less interested. It's a 2D roguelite action platformer with pixel art, and it just involves a whole lot of shooting enemies. There are boss battles, and the regular enemies look varied as well, but it's just shooting. It's just shooting. The soundtrack's that retro style that's very familiar for these grittier action platformers, and I really don't have much to say about this one, because to me it looks like literally every other game of this genre. I just see games like this because there's just a dime a dozen, because they're so easy to create for new developers. You know, it's 2D platformers. I've barely dipped my toe into developing, so I can't talk too much, but 2D platformers are just so much easier to make than pretty much any other kind of game, and I think that's why you see so many of them, and it doesn't mean they can't be done well, because they can. I mean, I'm sure Non-Guns Doppelganger Edition is fine, it's just so not my style, and I don't see why you'd play this one when there's other games that actually have unique concepts that are leaving. But if you love 2D roguelite action platformers, you may as well go for it. And then the last one that's leaving is Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So this trailer looks spooky and intriguing, and it's perfect as we get near to Halloween. However, it's more monster-based than horror-based from what I can tell, which means hopefully it might be better for those of us who can't tolerate psychological horror. Like me. I enjoy zombie media, but I'm terrible at zombie games because I just can't stay on top of so many enemies. I was always such a liability in the Call of Duty zombie levels. My teammates truly carried me. And as such, I think I would be pretty bad at Alan Wake, as it seems to involve a lot of killing of zombie-like creatures. It's an action-adventure game that garnered a decent rating of 73% on Metacritic. It's worth noting with this one that it's an Xbox 360 title and it has been out for a decade, so if you do decide to play it, just be aware the graphics won't be on the same level as most modern-day titles. However, the main story only takes 3.5 hours, so it's probably worth checking out if it's your kind of genre, but be aware it takes about 8 hours if you're looking to do a completionist run. And there we have it. I am so glad I got to share Bugsnax with you, as it is genuinely one of my favourite games and one that I thoroughly enjoy playing. If you do decide to give it a go, please do let me know. If you head over to www.screenhype.co.uk, you can find links to all my socials, including the community Facebook group where you can share your thoughts. The website also has a section dedicated to the Exploring Game Pass podcast, where you can learn more about the show and find links to all the previous episodes. Next episode, I'll be taking a look at the recently released A Plague Tale Requiem. I'll see you then.